you ever watch reporters on TV and I'll pull up something, pull the thing out of their ear?
Yeah.
It's because they can't handle the delay. There's not supposed to be a delay, but sometimes there is. They're called IFBs is what they wear. So sometimes people will be talking and they'll just like really yank it out. It's because it throws them off. But if you ever watch
that way they can stay in character. Like
I guess like they're losing their train of thought, so they angrily yank it out. But I've never seen anybody just do it softly. They just like angrily do it.
In the middle of this, hey everyone, welcome to Aaron and Justin Talk Sequels. I'm Justin. That's Aaron.
I'm Aaron.
Yeah, and we
get right to it. I like it.
Yeah, we're covering the OG. It almost feels like the OG Batman sequels. These are the 1990s films that really, should I say, started the superhero craze.
Yeah, I was thinking of the same thing. A lot of people talk about Superman as starting the superhero craze, but that didn't really start a craze. That felt it just was a superhero movie, and then nobody else made any after that.
Yeah, what did we have in the 80s outside of some TV movies that were good?
They were all Superman movies, right? And like the Supergirl movie, which didn't do well, and the Howard the Duck thing, which isn't really superhero at all, but it was still based on a comic, and that didn't do well.
Cult classics.
As far as like a company realizing they have something, that they have a character that they can treat like James Bond, and they're like, oh, we'll just make another one, and then we'll do another one after that, and then nothing will stop it. It doesn't even matter if the lead actor doesn't return. We'll just recast him and just keep making them. I feel like that is the Batman series, So I would say it would start the superhero craze.
And it's pretty easy because I'm going to talk. We're going to talk about all the Batman movies up until today and their box office. So yes,
but we are doing literally Batman Returns today, right? With touching on Batman, of course.
Yes,
and then we'll get to the other two after that, because I really wanted to watch those again, and I didn't really get around to it. So.
Yep, I watched Batman Forever last night with the girl that I'm seeing.
Yeah. Did she ever see it before?
She had not. So I made her watch Batman Returns with me. I think I made her watch Batman. And it wasn't until last night when we watched Batman Forever when she said, oh, I really liked that one. So we'll touch on it, but she didn't really like Batman. She didn't really like Batman Returns. But it was finally the more...
That is interesting. Yeah.
I know! And I respect it. And we're going to talk about why in the next episode, but...
I do want to say one thing, because I don't want to steal it, because it's something that I would... It's like... it's a joke, basically, so I don't want to steal it and say, oh, I came up with that. So I'll just say it now. And I was watching the honest trailers for these movies sometimes, and they do the one for Batman Forever, and he says... Oh, man, this is definitely the worst movie I've seen 30 times. And I was
yes,
that is exactly how I feel about it, too. This one's bad, but I want to watch it all the time. That's how Batman Forever is.
And I hadn't watched this movie in probably at least 10 years, and I bought it for us doing this podcast, and it brought back so many memories.
Yeah. It's such a fun movie. It may not be good, I don't know, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. But, so we're covering Batman Returns today, and before that, we need to touch on Batman. But worldwide box office, you were talking about how they suddenly had a character and a franchise that would make a lot of movie. Do you know where they landed with worldwide box office for Batman Unadjusted?
I have it pulled up here.
Do you already have it pulled up?
Is it 411 million?
Yes! And so I need to pull up the adjusted gross, or do you already have it?
I do not have the adjusted gross.
Adjusted Batman gross 19.
I know a lot about Batman, and I've watched it many times, and I've read about it, so I have all the basic details down. But I'm willing to learn some new things I didn't know about it.
So adjusted gross is $897 million.
Well, that was the thing, though. Anytime they did a superhero movie, they were making money like they'd never made anywhere else. It's kind of how it feels like, right?
Yeah.
It was like the most successful film in history when this came out, wasn't it?
I don't know about that one, but it was definitely up there.
Yeah.
And I think God, it held on to the. I don't have the overall rankings, but Dark Knight Rises, or no, they're just The Dark Knight, what many consider to be the biggest Batman film of all time. Its worldwide box office gross is $999 million.
Yeah.
So
it didn't really make that much, right, compared to the other ones? I think The Dark Knight Rises even made more money.
The Dark Knight Rises made more money,
Yeah.
but in terms of cultural appeal, The Dark Knight was the one that stood out as the quote-unquote best.
Right. People like The Dark Knight, like they like Spider-Man 2. Like they talk about it like it's actually one of the best superhero films. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's exactly right.
I don't know if people will consider parts of the MCU as being one of the best superhero movies because they're so tied together. They actually totally defeat our whole sequel thing. You know, our whole feeling about sequel, and that it needs to be a standalone film and end the story. Like that doesn't even. Those ones don't even apply to it.
Yeah, because it's technically. I mean, you could almost call that like serialistic films. What's the proper word for those? Because they're not. Yeah,
I knew that those were movies we weren't really gonna touch anytime soon. I didn't think. You know,
no,
we certainly have a many to get through as it is of our childhood. So there's no reason to go to anything modern at the moment, but it could be interesting. I don't know. I guess you could do the Iron Man films. You know, those are like.
Yes, those are sequels.
But you don't want to start with Iron Man 2. You don't want to make a whole podcast about Iron Man 2. That would just be weird.
It'd be more fun to honestly do the Captain America sequels.
Yeah, there you go. But even his third movie is like a Avengers film. You know,
but it still centers around the Winter Soldier and yada yada. Have you seen Chris Evans' leaked photos?
No.
Have you heard about Chris Evans' leaked photos?
No.
It's all over the Twitters yesterday, 9/12.
Is this like bad for him? Is this cancel culture?
No, not canceled. More like it's either some naked ass shots or there was some full frontal. I saw a lot of Twitter saying that the gay community thanks you, sir. It almost sounded like he leaked it. I don't know the whole story.
And where are they from?
I don't know.
Were they professionally done, or were they something he did on his own?
I'm assuming their camera phone quality. I didn't see anything yet.
Camera phone quality, all right.
I did not go looking, so I have not seen these leaks.
That's pretty funny. No, I thought you were gonna like mention. I don't know. I thought this somehow had something to do with Batman, but no, it's just literally
just Captain America's ass. I want to do a quick
It's America's
game.
ass, isn't it?
It is America's ass.
America's ass.
All right, sir. Before we get started, the way we usually do, I want to make the internet angry.
Okay.
Will you, and you don't know anything about this, so it'll be fun. I need you to rank the best Batman in order.
Yeah, Jesus.
All the way to Robert Pattinson. I want to argue that trailer was good enough.
Yeah,
we
I guess from the trailer you can base it, but the best Batman.
And I'm just going to refresh you. I'm going to list them off real quick.
Now, I just watched on the Roku channel. Victoria and I were curious what this was, but there was a 1940s Batman that kind of felt like a TV show, but I know it was a serial that you would go see in the movie theater. But they were like almost half-hour episodes.
Was that any good?
But I had never known about it. It was called Batman and Robin, and it was two guys playing Batman and Robin, and they were going against some villain called the Wizard, but it was mostly like gangster based. There wasn't really any superheroes involved, except for those two, no supervillains. But I never knew of that, but I knew that there were like movies made in the 40s with another Batman.
Yeah.
But we don't count any of that. We just count from Adam West up. Is that what you're saying?
I wasn't even going to include
You weren't
Adam
even going to
West.
include Adam West.
No, because if we got too deep in the weeds, it's like, do we include the Mask of the Phantasm? Because everybody includes that as a Batman movie.
So you just want to include from Michael Keaton on up, but not the animated series either?
Yep, live action.
Okay.
We've got Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, George Clooney, Christian Bale, Ben Affleck, Robert Pattinson.
Ben Affleck was Batman?
I don't remember it either.
The
but
guy
apparently
from Mallrats?
Mallrats. Yeah.
That
Did you hear that
chubby
Michael
jerk?
Keaton
Oh.
is going to be in Flash?
Yeah, I read that in the Batman Returns Wikipedia page, which I was angry about. A page about Batman Returns ends with Keaton is set to reprise his role in Batman in the DC Extended Universe, beginning with The Flash 2022. I was just like, get that out of there. Like, just talk about Batman Returns. Nobody cares about this shitty Flash movie. We know it's gonna be shitty.
No, it's going to be amazing.
No, it's not.
When the DC...
It'll be enjoyable the way Wonder Woman's enjoyable, but they are not good films.
Yeah. That's all. No, that's all they're looking for is entertaining, and
Right.
it will be entertaining.
But that's
This
fine.
was
I
my-
mean, I don't mind seeing him as Batman again, of course. But I don't know what the hell. Like, really? That's what we wanted Michael Keaton to return as Batman in The Flash?
Yeah.
Some jokey Ezra Miller vehicle? Come on.
No. So this is perfect. And I argued this using a different DC storyline when the DC movies were falling apart.
Yeah.
Pre, like Shazam relaunch. What they need to do is do one of their multiverse movies and incorporate every DC movie that's ever been made into one universe.
Yeah.
And there's so much potential
But
there.
they kind of already did. I mean, it's just a, like, Into the Spider-Verse kind of did that, right?
Yeah, but
And
DC
they've done
has...
it in comics, of course. That's where it all started. And
Yeah, DC has a bunch of established huge moments
Right.
that deal with multiverses.
I think I agree with you, and then that's how they're going to do it. But I also feel like it's a cop-out. It's basically rebooting, but without saying reboot. They just use the word multiverse now instead of reboot. You know
Kind
what I
of.
mean?
Yeah, because that's how they're bringing in the X-Men. Yeah. Or at least we think. Anyway.
Yeah,
so,
we have no idea about that. I don't know.
Rate your best Batman.
Yeah, okay. One more time, who were they?
Michael Keaton.
Mm-hmm.
Val Kilmer. George Clooney. Christian Bale. Ben Affleck. Robert Pattinson. I had to write mine down. But
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think it just depends on your mood at the moment and what you would consider.
Cop-out answer.
I just think that it's always going to change is the problem. You know, like if you talk about like, yeah, but who was the best fighter? Like who was the best at being the Batman? Then you'd say like, oh, well, I guess this person. Then you'd be like, but who was the best Bruce Wayne? Then you'd be like, oh, well, I guess it would be this person. Who was the best everything? That's what you're asking me.
Best everything.
Everything.
Yeah. Best everything. And if you don't make a solid choice,
I will make a solid choice. I'm just thinking.
Because at this point, there should be enough people viewing where we're going to get some negative responses on the social media. And that's exciting.
I think the best everything was Christian Bale.
Okay. We're 1 for 1.
Okay. I don't
He's
know how
my
you
first.
can choose. I think you can choose differently because, like, Michael Keaton was in some pretty fun films, like, that had a great world building. And obviously we'll get more into his version of Batman here. But, as far as a solid storyline goes with, like, a singular vision, you know, and somebody who got to really explore the character of Bruce Wayne in multiple films and Batman in multiple films and everything that comes with that, nobody had a better storyline than Christian Bale. That's why
Nobody
I would say
did.
he's
Yeah.
the best Batman.
Of those
Affleck's
3
all
movies.
over the place. We don't know about Robert Pattinson. Maybe he'll have a 3-film world, all from Matt Reeves.
Who is amazing, by
And
the way.
it'll
I
be-
forgot
yeah, and he's good.
who Matt Reeves was. Yeah.
So maybe he'll have that option, but Michael Keaton never got that option. He only had 2 movies, but he should have went more with it, you know, and Burton should have went more with it, but he didn't, and that's just how it is. George Clooney, I think people like him as Bruce Wayne, but it was almost like anybody could be Batman in those movies, you know.
I can't remember that movie well enough.
And Val Kilmer was basically just continuing Michael Keaton, I feel like, but his own certain Kilmer-esque spin on it. But I don't know if he brought anything new to it. I think he was just reading like the script like, oh, this is how Bruce Wayne's supposed to be because Michael played these characters. I'm the new one. I'll just do the same thing.
And
You
we're,
know?
we're touching on it a little, but yeah, it's watching that movie last night. It was almost like Val Kilmer was Michael Keaton's body double.
Exactly.
Like, I could
A
replace
little more
Val-
fancy boy, like handsome body double, right?
But I was just watching Michael Keaton's face. Like, all the words sounded scripted for Michael Keaton.
yeah. Well,
Like,
now,
it's
now
like
that
that's-
we have more time with Batman Forever, I literally am gonna watch it and write down every bad line as I hear them, because man, is that movie full of bad lines.
So many
So
bad
many bad
lines.
So how do we start?
Real
this
quick
off,
though.
then? Yeah, go ahead.
So you have only done Christian Bale. He's your number one.
Oh yeah,
but
you want me to do more? Okay.
As a subheader, real quick, rank those 3 new movies since we probably won't touch on them for a while.
Oh, the Christian Bale ones.
Yeah.
Oh, I would say. Well, I'd say The Dark Knight, and then Batman Begins, and then Batman Rises.
Did you hear that, Internet? Did you hear that?
What are people's preferred?
Reach onto him at Twitter at what's your Twitter handle?
I don't know.
I think it's A.H. Russman.
I think it is A.H. Russman.
Yeah, hit him up. If it's not correct, we'll update it in the show's streaming notes.
Yeah.
The correct answer is Dark Knight Rises, Dark Knight, Batman Begins.
I think didn't everybody hate The Dark Knight Rises?
I love that movie so much.
Yeah, but doesn't the majority not like it?
I don't care about the majority.
But doesn't the majority not like?
At Quit It Justin on Twitter. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, back to rating Batman.
But the Joker's like more fun than.
Oh, guess,
You know, I mean, he's
there's
all good in it, and I'm always surprised it's Tom Hardy because I feel like they put fake muscle on him or something, but they didn't.
It's crazy.
But I think the Joker's more fun than either of those two bad people in that movie.
Did you see the YouTube series Bane Cat?
No.
So you need to watch that and then
Okay.
come back and tell me about that next next episode.
All right.
Anyway, Christian Bale.
Yeah.
You're taking a long time with this. What's your number 2?
This is taking forever. I didn't know we were continuing. Okay, so Christian Bale. Well, I'd say Michael Keaton,
Ding. That's my number 2.
and then I'd say Ben Affleck.
See, I'm so excited about Pattinson that I put him at my number 3, and then Affleck.
You know, we were talking about I was just mentioning George Clooney and how anybody could be Batman, and he was just kind of the fill-in for that. But I still think he was probably, I don't know, I feel like he might have been better at it than Val Kilmer was. So I guess I would say Christian Bale, Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck, George Clooney, Val Kilmer, and I don't know where to put Robert Pattinson. I just can't say. He's not there yet.
I know. I put Val Kilmer and then George Clooney just because I can't remember George Clooney in that movie.
Okay, well, you probably need to watch it again.
Yeah. Real quick, though, to piss off the internet, will you rate Joker real quick?
Oh, yeah.
Nicholson, some guy named Ledger,
Yep.
Leto, and Phoenix.
I didn't see that movie.
You didn't see it?
No, I didn't see it.
It's not great.
That's what I want people to understand. This sounds so shitty. I didn't see it. I have no hate for it. I just do not give a shit. I just was like, people are losing their fucking minds about Joaquin Phoenix playing this character. And I'm like, here's the thing. Joaquin Phoenix goes overboard and does a great job in everything he does. Why are we so goddamn surprised at how amazing he would be as a psychopath?
Hey, don't
what I
say
mean?
the guy's always great. So why was anybody surprised?
But
that
he
was
is.
great?
Is he bad in any movie? I mean, everybody's always amazed by what he does whenever he's in a film, pretty much.
Yeah,
Not everybody.
he's an incredible actor.
Right. So people are just like losing their minds about how amazing he is in this, to the point where it just turned me off, where I was just like, yeah, I bet he's really good at it. But it's easy. To me, it's just easy to play this kind of insane character. Like, it's almost like they say you get an Oscar if you play someone who's mentally challenged or whatever. It's like, oh, I want to be an unhinged, white psychopath. You know what I mean? In this movie, and then it's like everybody's surprised. It's so amazing. It just felt a little too easy for me, and I don't know. It might be good, but I don't.
Like,
It doesn't
good,
interest
but
me
it's
at all.
not. Yeah,
It's not.
like it's good, but it's not. It's like a really good movie about mental illness, but a really bad movie about the Joker.
Okay, that's interesting.
I mean, because we know from the comics that the Joker is insane. And then they simply took those words, the Joker is insane, and what is insane in real life? Some poor bastard that's just mentally ill and needs help. And so that's the framing for the movie, is that he is mentally ill, gets no help, and starts killing people.
yeah,
And so it's sad.
I
It's
think
not-
I would not like Fight Club if it came out today. You know what I mean? Because I just feel it's about white male aggression, and we loved it, and I loved it when I was young because I was a kid, and that's exactly the kind of movie that I would be into when I was 17, 18. And that's why
Yeah.
I have a nostalgic thing for it. But if it came out now, where I'm a little more aware of how ridiculous those kind of movies are, I probably wouldn't like it. And I think that's where Joker fits into that. Is I'm just like, whatever. Like Falling Down or something like that with Michael Douglas. Like, it just feels like one of those movies.
I haven't seen that movie
Yeah.
in ages. I really liked that as a kid,
I
too.
did too.
God.
I did too, but I don't think I would like it nowadays. Like, it just feels just like too easy. Like, that's how you make a movie to get people to enjoy it, because we all get off on that kind of thing. You know, I don't know. As kids,
Have
we
you
do,
seen
at
that
least.
movie recently?
Falling Down?
Yeah.
Maybe last year sometime. I think I might have watched
Really?
it. Yeah.
And I mean, it doesn't hold up, or it holds up?
It holds up, but you're watching it in a world with multiple school shootings every year, so it's not as, you know, surprising anymore. Like, I think when it came out, it was really just like, wow, could you imagine if like this happened to somebody, like, who just went off and just started wreaking havoc? You know what I mean?
And that's life now.
Right,
yeah.
right. But you can't. I mean, that's the same thing with the Jokers, but those are superheroes, so you take that in a different way. You know, you don't think like Nicholson and Ledger are psychopaths in the real world. You know, they're in this confined superhero world, so it doesn't. It's not weird, I guess. It doesn't stand out. But the Joker movie, like you're saying, it just felt to me, and I didn't see it, that it was trying to put a face on mental illness and terror in the real world, and this is what it would be if some unhinged white male went crazy. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, yeah, we've seen that 1,000 times in the news, but thanks for making a movie of it.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. So wait.
So who are the Jokers? I would
Yeah.
say
Quit taking so fucking long and just rate the fucking Jokers. Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, Jared Leto, Joaquin Phoenix.
Leto feels completely like just a throwaway Joker, so I probably would say Nicholson, Ledger, Joaquin Phoenix, and Leto. You know?
After watching this Batman again, I coughed. Sorry about that. After watching this movie again, Batman from '89, Nicholson is so good.
Yeah.
So your ranking is pretty much my ranking.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a crazy performance. Oh wait, real quick though. One last thing. Rate the best Catwomen. Michelle Pfeiffer, Halle Berry, Anne Hathaway, Zoe Kravitz, because the trailer was so good.
I can really only say that Michelle Pfeiffer is by and large the best, and then I don't remember the Catwoman movie. I'm sure I saw it, but I don't remember it.
I never saw it.
But I feel like Halle Berry was more fun in the role than Anne Hathaway's really by name only Catwoman. You know, like she was barely Catwoman. I felt like in that film.
Oh, that audio
She was
is gonna
just a
be bad.
supporting
Wait,
character.
pause.
Anne Hathaway. That's how I feel. The
Some
same
of
with
that audio is gonna be terrible.
What's that?
Some of that audio is gonna be bad.
Why?
Because I had to unplug my headphones for a second.
Oh, well, that's fine. I'll just cut you out.
Yeah, good. Cut me out. That's gonna be choppy, audience. That's because Aaron is an editing Nazi. So you were talking about Anne Hathaway being Catwoman, just not in name.
She was just in name only, but wasn't even in name only. The same way that Joseph Gordon-Levitt was Robin in name only. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they are not those characters. It's just like Nolan got a note from the DC heads and we're just like, can you just call him Robin? And he's just like, well, he's not. His name is like John. I know. But can you just put Robin in front of his name? All right, but I'm literally not going to do anything with him being Robin. I know. Just do it anyways. So he's like, and the same way they're like, could she just be Catwoman? Well, she's just Selena Kyle. That's just the name we went with because she's a thief or what. I know, but can you just give her ears or something? Okay, when she flips up her glasses, they'll look like ears. How about that? Okay, thank you. I feel like that's all they did. You know what I mean?
So the hard part here for me is my number one is Anne Hathaway.
Really? Okay.
Like, the character is just so much closer to the real Catwoman in the comics. Like, she felt like a real poor person that was just a trained thief.
Mm-hmm.
And it was cool. Like, the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman isn't really like the comics. She's not.
I agree with that. That she's a completely new take on Catwoman for the film.
Anyway, we're talking about Batman Returns, the sequel to the hit 1989 film Batman.
Yep.
It's not The Batman, because that's the new one. It's just Batman.
Batman.
So, we're going to cover Batman real quick. So, Batman's about Bruce Wayne, super rich guy, that decides to dress up in a costume and fight crime because he's a sociopath? Maybe?
After witnessing the death of his well-to-do parents when he was a child, he dedicated his life to, I guess, stopping anyone from doing that to anyone else again, and then it just became a larger war on crime in his city, Gotham City, which feels like I don't know how to save the world, but as far as my place in the world goes, I'm just going to be a symbol of darkness that also fights darkness in order to get rid of the darkness in Gotham City. Is that pretty much Batman?
I mean, yes, but here's my question. Batman, Bruce Wayne, how old do you think he's in this movie? He is
40.
Okay, so he has just started being Batman just before this movie starts. So what did he
Yes.
do for the first 40 years?
I don't know. Because Michael Keaton's Batman is certainly not the go across the world, fight with the League of Shadows and Ra's al Ghul, you know what I mean? And learn how to train to be a crime fighter or a martial artist and expert in anything. Because that's not Michael Keaton.
No, and that's not this Batman. It's more, I'm a 40-year-old sociopath that decided to dress up in a funny suit and kick people's asses in the street because I have so much built-up anger.
Well, let's consider this as a world where no one's ever done anything like that before. And they don't watch superhero movies. They don't have any kind of entertainment that is like that. This is the world of Gotham City in the 1989 Batman film. So all of a sudden, this guy who's rich and had this traumatic experience as a child was just like, you know what? I'm gonna start taking out bad guys and just street, muggers and things like that at first, and then get caught up in a bigger to-do with a crazy, I don't know, ex-gangster. Or, I mean, I guess the Joker's still a gangster in the movie. He just is crazy.
Is driven crazy.
So, I don't know, it's kind of like he has the tools to be Batman, so he just starts being Batman, because he's got the resources and the butler that helps him along. But he doesn't really think I don't think he thinks he's anything more than just some dude that goes out when he's got time and knocks some heads of some muggers. And then he gets caught up in this world where there's like this guy who runs the family crime business, in town, and now he needs to take him down. So then he becomes a bigger to do. I think that's where Michael Keaton's head is as Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, and so the plot for this movie is Batman's out and he's taking down some bad guys, which has gotten the notice of the big crime boss, played by
Jack Palance.
Jack Palance is Grissom.
Or Palance, as a lot of people say, but I don't know which is correct. I think Palance is a better way to say it.
I've always heard Palance.
Yeah.
So he's the guy that's in charge of all the crime that Batman's trying to take down. And his number 2 is Jack Napier, played by Jack Nicholson. So Jack Napier is banging Jack Palance's girlfriend, Grissom's girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And then Grissom figures that out. And so he is going to off Jack Napier. And he sends him on a heist of Atlas Chemicals.
Axis.
Sorry.
Yep.
Axis Chemicals. And
because they own the chemical company, I think, right? It's like it's a front for illegal activity, and they had a tip-off that there was going to be a raid of Axis Chemicals, which would then implicate Grissom as a crime boss. So he sent Jack to head this operation to go clean the place out, basically. I believe that's how it is. So when he shows up and sees the place is already cleaned out, that's when Nicholson realizes, we've been set up, boys. Let's get out of here. Watch yourself, whatever he says. Yeah, so then he knows from that moment that Grissom set him up. But I love that it was over a woman. Because when he comes back to life, or whatever you want to say, when, he's the Joker now, and he confronts Grissom, he says it. He says, "You set me up over a woman! A woman!" It's just like a small thing, and he makes point to say, like, that's it! And that's why he kills him. So I always thought that was cool. And you know who the woman is, Alicia? It's Jerry Hall, who used to be married to Mick Jagger. I don't know if they were ever married, but yeah, she was a big rock star wife or girlfriend or whatever. That's her claim to fame. And she was in Batman.
So there can be an argument made about this movie that plot number 1 is the story of Jack Napier becoming the Joker, his craziness after that. Like, you could very much say that's plot 1. And then Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne Batman, what is his overall plot other than kind of being in the background and being a sociopath and fighting crime and dating women and just kind of reacting to everything that's happening?
Yeah. I mean, I just don't think he's a sociopath. I just think he's just some dude who has a lot of money. So if he's going to go try to make a difference, he just was a little eccentric about it. And this is how he decided to do it.
Yeah, this Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne, like, his portrayal is... It's so weird, because there is a very active, like, Bruce Wayne is the main guy and Batman is a character.
Right.
Where in the comics we're really used to Batman's the guy and Bruce Wayne's the character.
Right.
And we see so much of Bruce Wayne, and I always see Bruce Wayne when Batman's on. So when he's just Bruce Wayne without the outfit, I'm still seeing this. I don't know. He's a sociopath.
I think Michael Keaton has a very innocent approach. His Bruce Wayne is a very innocent approach to the character. It's very basic. I think it just takes it back to Bob Kane's original idea of who Batman was. It was just some rich dude. It's very Adam West. You know what I mean? It's just, here's this rich dude who has resources and a drive to be a good citizen, and he's very eccentric in the way he wants to go and change the city. That's pretty much it. Whereas our modern sensibilities, and Christopher Nolan is in that world, he's like us. He grew up like we did. he wants to tell a story that is about a man who went through trauma and like through trial and error and abuse, and he put himself into this thing where I need to be a man of vengeance. You know what I mean? And that's like a modern take on Batman. But as far as the 80s were concerned, coming off of the Superman film, which was pretty much all they knew about superheroes, it's a very innocent comic book take on Bruce Wayne. That's Michael Keaton, I feel like.
Yeah, whatever.
No,
it was good. But do you... What am I... I'm trying to think of the hanging out plot elements.
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on the fact that he's more of a B character than an A character?
Oh, I think he is, and that's exactly why Nicholson's name is first in the credits as well, because he's the star.
I mean,
Batman is the star of the film. The character is the star. But as far as actors go, Nicholson is the one that drives the film, and Michael Keaton is there to portray, you know, whatever Batman needs to do without really taking over the movie, I feel like. Nicholson's the drive of the plot, is all I'm saying.
So we have Nicholson as A plot, and then we have Batman as a B plot.
Yeah.
But then we also have Kim Basinger as Vicky Vale,
Yep.
and Robert Wool,
Yep.
is it Wool?
Wool, yep.
As Knox.
Yep. Alexander
And
Knox.
This is a writer and a photographer for a newspaper that is investigating rumors of a Batman.
Yeah. So that's the C story, and that's what I like about it too, is that it's very it's like classic Hollywood, you know, in the way they represent the media and the news. You know, everybody's wearing a hat. You know, the press is here. Hey, tell us the story. Hey, you know, hey. You know. So that's Knox, and but it's a little subverted because Basinger is not who you would picture in that 1930s world as being the photographer. You'd think of Jimmy Olsen. You think of some guy, you know. So I like that take on it, that she's the one that's the artist and he's the writer, and they team up. But, you know, he's just got this crazy idea that there's a Batman loose in Gotham City, and he wants to tell the story, and nobody believes him because it's really silly. But she came because she just found it, you know, interesting in the same way that Alexander Knox found it interesting.
Yeah.
And then they get
anyway,
involved in the plot.
Yes. So, basically, this movie, I'm just going to cover the whole thing real quick. The guy becomes the Joker. So we have the Joker running around being absolutely insane. He goes and he basically takes out some of the crime bosses and becomes their leader. So he's the new Jack Palance. And yeah, lost my train of thought there.
I just think that Batman would have been on his mission to stop petty thieves in Gotham. That would have been all Batman would do, is just stop some pettiness, until Napier started to be like, Grissom was all about keeping the family hidden in the world of crime, but the Joker made it in your face and started to really mess with Gotham, and that's why Batman's like, well, I guess I need to focus my efforts on this guy now. So the Joker almost makes him become this superhero crime fighter, whereas he just would have been some dude who just stopped people from stealing your mom's purse while she walked around. You know what I mean?
That's an interesting...
But that is the drive of the movie,
point.
is that, and that's why they made Jack Napier be the one that killed Bruce's parents, because Batman helped create the Joker, but the Joker first created Batman. That's the idea. And they even say it at the end. He said, I made you, you made me first. That's what Batman says at the end. You know? Do you remember that?
Yeah, like when he has him...
Right.
Yeah.
And I only think, and if I was a comic book fan, like most comic book fans who saw that, they probably were pissed off that they made him be the reason, or kill his parents. But me watching it, who didn't really know anything about Batman at the time, excited from the movie, I was fine with it. And it really works,
Oh, yeah.
because the actor they have playing Jack Nicholson as a young man looks amazing. You know what
Yes.
I mean? He doesn't look like Jack Nicholson would as a child, but he looks like the way Jack Napier would look as a young man. You know, not a child, but a young man. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because we know what Jack Nicholson looks like as a young man, and that's not what
Yeah.
he looks like. But he certainly looks like what a young Joker would look like, and that's what I love about that casting.
Yeah, that was really good. We haven't talked about Tim Burton at all.
No, who's that guy? Was he the art
Yeah.
director or something? Oh.
He basically might as well just have been.
Could you imagine being in the late 80s and hearing about all this? So the guy who made nothing but Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Beetlejuice, and the star of Beetlejuice and Mr. Mom and Night Shift, the Ron Howard film with Henry Winkler, which is an amazing movie, by the way. Michael Keaton's in that. That silly guy, both of those silly people are handling Batman. You'd think that they were just going to make a new version of the Adam West show. Like, there is no way you would think that it would be as dark and as crime-based, you know, Godfather-based as this movie turned out to be. So I can see how there was an uproar about everything about this movie to start with. They probably would want Scorsese to do it. You know what I mean? And they probably wanted... Who would be the actor of that era that should have played? Like, Tom Cruise should have played Batman. You know what I mean? Just because everybody goes on the look. Well, Michael
I wonder
Keaton
who they
doesn't
were
look
actually
like him.
considering.
Tom Cruise might have been a little young, but I think he probably could have pulled it off.
But,
Stallone. No.
oh, originally they wanted an unknown actor.
But, like, what the fan base, the fan community, the comic community, I wonder who they would have wanted.
I know. When Ivan Reitman was being considered, he apparently wanted Bill Murray as Batman.
Right. Wouldn't that have been something?
80s Bill Murray, yeah, it'd be interesting. I'm reading the internets.
But, you know, this is how movie companies work. Tim Burton made, I think both of his films, Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Beetlejuice, were for Warner Brothers. I'm not sure. No, I'm not sure about Beetlejuice, but I know for a fact Pee-wee's Big Adventure was for Warner Brothers because it took place on the Warner lot. It was big on
Beetlejuice
that.
was too.
Okay. So he made 2 successful money-making movies for Warner Brothers. So they don't give a shit about comic book fans and the way comic book fans think and people and fans of Batman. All they think about is a business thing. We got this young director. He made 2 financially successful films for us. What do we want him to do next? Well, we have the Batman property. We kind of want to move that forward. Well, let's give it to Burton. I mean, he's like a sure thing. He made 2 successful films for us. This will probably be his 3rd. You know, so that's how they think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that made sense to me that he would be given the role. But I think on the outside it is pretty funny. Like this comedic director who is a little off, obviously. Like, I mean, Beetlejuice is a little dark, but in a funny way, you know.
So, wait, let's talk about that, though. We were already starting to see the darkness of Tim Burton with his first 2 movies. Tim Burton, can you think of any other director who is known for such a distinct style? Like, you know when something's a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah.
Can you think of any other director that is that distinctive who has never written the script for any one of their movies?
I knew you were going to throw that last part in because you know exactly who I'm going to say. But he also writes the script for his movies.
Well, no. See, that's who's not in the boss of the story.
Yeah.
So Tim Burton takes these properties that somehow he hasn't written, and he has made them all a Tim Burton film.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Whenever you see a director who has that distinct of a style, and people say this is who's a Wes Anderson movie.
I see. Wes Anderson is the only one I can think of that stands out more than anybody. But you're right. He's the person that leads the whole. Like, he creates that world, and that's why it looks the way he wants it to look. I think you're right in that it is even more of a difficult practice to take anything anybody writes and make it your look, and that's what Burton does so well.
Yeah.
And it's to the point where like Barry Sonnenfeld, it also has a very distinct look, but people always think it's a Tim Burton movie when he makes a movie. You know?
Yes, and that's absolutely real.
And you're like, no, that was Sonnenfeld. His is similar, but it's his own thing. But unfair to him, he always gets. Everybody thinks his movies are Tim Burton films.
All right, I'm gonna read through the Tim Burton filmography real quick, and I want you to make a ding where you think he got in touch with his emotions, he got happy, and then he became less of a good filmmaker.
Okay.
So I'm just looking for a comic ding. Feel free to add any of your own noises there in post to make ding really attractive. Ding, ding, ding. Every time I say ding. So we've got Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Mm-hmm. We have Beetlejuice. Mm-hmm. We have Batman. Edward Scissorhands.
Yep.
Batman Returns. We have Ed Wood, which I have still never seen. Oh. Mars Attacks, one of my favorite movies ever. Sleepy Hollow. Planet of the Apes. Big Fish.
I think I don't. Why was I dinging again? What was your criteria?
When Tim Burton stops being a classic director and just turns into a guy that makes movies that look like a Tim Burton movie.
What's after Big Fish?
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Corpse Bride.
I would say that
Sweeney Todd.
I would say, well, see, that's hard. That's hard. But I would say that Big Fish was probably the last time he made a movie that felt like he wanted to make it.
Like a personal.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Because you could argue Planet of the Apes is just a cash-in. But at the same time, I really think he was a fan of that series, and he really did his own take on it, even though it kind of turned a little too silly.
Yeah.
But I think that's okay. It didn't work, but I think he tried to make it work. And then Big Fish was very personal, obviously. But Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I only saw it once, but that is a cash-in like none other.
Oh, yeah.
But I would say Sweeney Todd was a nice return to the way he made movies.
Yes, I love that movie.
But then anything after that, like Alice in Wonderland or whatever, it kind of goes back to just being a director for hire because they know he can easily crank out this look that's fun.
Yeah, his last 1, 2...
So what was after
3,
Charlie and the Chocolate
4,
Factory?
5, 6. 4 out of the last 6 movies he's made have been Disney movies.
Yeah.
Corpse Bride.
Yeah.
Sweeney Todd. Alice in Wonderland. Dark Shadows.
Right.
Frankenweenie. Big Eyes.
Yeah.
Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, which I actually own and enjoy.
I never saw it.
And Dumbo.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I don't know. I kind of take back what I said because he goes off the rails and then he comes back a little bit, and then he goes off the rails and he comes back a little bit. Because I think Frankenweenie for him was, I don't know how involved he was in that really. It's difficult to say because, I don't know. It's the same thing with Wes Anderson when he made those stop action movies. You know what I mean?
He loves those.
He loves them, but like I kind of saw a making of, and it feels like he's involved, but at the same time, he kind of lets everybody do what they do best because he's not a stop motion animator. So he kind of lets other people do it. So it felt to me like they just took his look and made his movie for him, is kind of how that Mr. Fox movie felt. I don't know. I feel that's kind of how Corpse Bride is, and Frankenweenie. Because Frankenweenie was a short film he made in the 80s.
Right.
So that was him like, you know, I'd love to go back to my film, but I don't really know how involved he was really with it. I don't know I don't think he actually sat down and started doing the animating at all, you know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess like he goes off the rails with these Disney films, but then he comes back and makes something that is personal to him. Like maybe Big Eyes was a little personal to him, so he made that, because you wouldn't consider that the same cash-in as Alice in Wonderland, even though I didn't find Big Eyes to be that great.
And that's a Weinstein Company producer.
Okay, yeah.
Or distributor.
Right. It felt, you know, and Big Eyes was written... Did you see that movie?
No.
Okay. It was written by the guys who wrote Ed Wood. So that was his connection with it. Because he had already worked with the guys who wrote Ed Wood. So they had a new film about this woman who painted these crazy characters, and her husband took all the credit for it. So it was an interesting story. It's just I felt like they didn't really know where to go with it with the movie, because like they were trying to tell a real story. But normally when you make a film about a real story, you need it to be interesting all the way through. So you kind of change things. But they kind of didn't change enough at the end. They kind of kept it like the real story. So I'm watching it just being like, oh, this is kind of boring. Like, I think you should take a little leeway and make it entertaining. Like, they could have changed the ending in a way to make it more entertaining, but they wanted to be true to her story, so it kind of petered out, and that's what I didn't like about Big Eyes. Anyways, but if you want to talk about Tim Burton, what is your favorite Tim Burton film?
Oh, that's so hard.
I think one of his movies stands above all the rest. Largely above all the rest. I think it's a phenomenal film.
And everybody thinks it's a phenomenal film. I already know what you're going to say. Ed Wood.
I'm going to say Ed Wood.
Yeah, I know.
You've got
but wait,
to
let me
see
pick.
Ed Wood. He's made other movies that are just as good. I mean, I'm not saying it's that far ahead, but as far as like everything he's about as a filmmaker and telling a great story, and everybody shines in that movie, and it's a fun movie, and you want to watch it and rewatch it, Ed Wood is that movie for sure.
I have a hard time not picking Mars Attacks.
Yeah, I think there's a little too much nostalgia in that movie. I think it came out at a time we were young, so we have a lot of love for it. But it's a real hackneyed, thrown together kind of film with a really bizarre occurrences.
Which makes me just think that after Ed Wood, he was like, God, I want to make a movie like Ed Wood would.
Well, see, I think, yeah, I'm with you, yeah, and that is his Ed Wood film for sure. Strangely, not about Ed Wood, the one he did make before it.
This is where it's bonkers that we're talking like this, and he didn't write any of these movies.
No, he didn't write any of them. But, you know, he didn't write Edward Scissorhands, but it was his story. You know what I mean?
He has a couple of story
right,
credits.
so he gave it to somebody to, you know, flesh it out.
Right. But back to Batman.
But I think Batman Returns is probably right up there with Ed Wood, in that it's very Tim Burton-ish. You know,
it's so Tim Burton-ish,
and that's exactly why he never made another one, because they didn't let him.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So let's get through Batman. So
yeah, so where are we with that?
Most of our viewers have seen this movie. Listeners, most of our listeners have seen this movie. But so
Patreon contributors.
Joker does some bad stuff.
Yep.
Batman fights the Joker, throws him off of a church, murders him, and that's the end.
That's the end.
Sociopath.
Just kills him.
Yeah.
That's the end.
Isn't it killing him?
Batman kills a lot of people in these first two movies.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
He does. Especially in Batman Returns, he kills a lot of the circus performers.
Yes, he really does. Sociopath.
People had this weird thing about Batman where I really can't tell in the comics. Has the comics always been about Batman not killing people, and that was his one thing he wouldn't do?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even in the 70s? Because the 70s got pretty dark. But the movies never cared about that. The movies, he was killing people. And then all of a sudden, when the Ben Affleck came out and he's using guns and everybody's mad and he's killing people, they're all acting like, Batman would never do that. Why did Snyder do that to Batman? He would never kill people. And I was like, well, Tim Burton had him killing people all the time. Nobody cared about that. But I can't say for sure about the comics. I feel like that's how it was since the 90s, but I just don't know about earlier than that, if he was always not ever killing people. And I actually take that back. I know when Batman first appeared in the 40s, he was killing people left and right.
Well, yeah, and I know it's a newer concept, but will you talk for a second and finish off Batman while I kill a spider on my wall?
I was for sure you were looking at a spider. I'm like, there has got to be a spider on his wall. That's what he is doing right now.
It's running around like crazy and it's
Yeah,
bothering
go for
me.
it.
I'll be right back.
All right, so where are we? That's pretty much the end of Batman. So he gets the bat signal. Other things come into play. That makes Batman Batman. He's friends with Commissioner Gordon now. Gordon trusts him. We need to talk about Harvey Dent, played by Billy D. Williams. That's another important part. I think we'll get to that. So he's just
Is it over?
He's just a lonely guy. I mean, I really think you should call him sometimes if you guys are interested in Justin at all. You should give him Oh, you're back. Sorry. He's really lonely. This is his number. No.
Hi, I killed a spider.
I started talking and it got really weird because I was like, there's nobody I'm talking to right now but a microphone. It totally changed the whole podcast for me when you walked away. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I have nothing to say to you people. I can only say this to Justin and have you listen on the periphery. No, we finished it up. I said this is where everything comes together for Batman, and that Commissioner Gordon now trusts him. They have a bat signal. The whole legend of Batman is complete. Gotham City's happy to have him around. One thing we didn't talk about is Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent. I think he's also an important character. Even the guy who plays the mayor, I feel like the difference between Batman and Batman Returns is that Batman Returns took it in more of a comic book, comical, or a little off, a little more fantasy world. Whereas Batman, for all of its fantasy elements, it's a pretty real feeling film. You know, it has to do with gangsters. Gotham City seems like a dirty, awful place, but in the real world kind of feel like 80s New York almost. And the mayor seems like a real person, and even Billy D. Williams, Harvey Dent, seems like a real person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I like that feeling of Batman Returns being more in like a fantasy world.
Yeah, and I'm usually not like that's where I feel Quentin Tarantino has kind of gone off the rails, in that he made films that felt very real life for all of their eccentricities in Pulp Fiction and mostly Pulp Fiction. It's a little out there, but everything felt real. And then after Jackie Brown is very real. But then once he was handed the keys and all the money in the world and anything he wanted to do to make that Tarantino film with Kill Bill, he's never gone back from that. He's always made out there cartoonish films ever since. And they're all fun, but they're very cartoonish in my view. And they're not as good as his grounded 90s work. That's how I feel about Tarantino.
I feel like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a lot more grounded.
I haven't seen it yet. We were trying to see it a couple weeks ago, but I do want to see that. Like even Death Proof is probably a little more grounded because it has like a raw independent feel to it, but it still is a little out there, you know, at the end. When they kill his character, Kurt.
I never saw the end of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, but my point is that I'm usually against filmmakers that are very real filmmakers, and then they start going into this fantasy world. Like I feel like it is a detriment to their work. But for Burton, I think it worked with Batman Returns.
Yes, it absolutely did, because Batman Returns is a superior film.
I don't know about that. I feel like they're very unique in their own way.
That's true. But I don't even know how to start Batman Returns.
Well, I think we ended Batman on a note of Batman is Batman now. This is what he does.
Yes.
He would have been happy taking out purse snatchers, but since this guy, the Joker, came along and made it a war on crime and a big deal, Batman's like, all right, I gotta fight supervillains now, and I guess we're just gonna expect more supervillains in the future. That's why I have a bet signal. You know, it secures the legend in Gotham City.
Yeah. But underneath the city, the entire time Batman was going on, another danger was lurking.
Yeah, there's no reason to retcon the Penguin growing up underneath Batman 89 the whole time. There's no reason for that, all right? And what was Selena Kyle doing? And is Max Schreck, does he have his department store in the 89 Batman film and we just didn't touch on it?
Obviously he does.
Obviously he would, right?
Because it doesn't seem like Bruce Wayne was really Bruce Wayning it up until he
Right.
decided,
like that he should be more active
Yep.
to get more intel as the Batman.
Batman was a huge success for Warner Brothers.
Yes.
And
Making
obviously
$400 billion.
right, and Burton can do no wrong, and he still continued to do no wrong up until I believe Ed Wood. But
Yeah.
so they're like, well, what do you want to do now? Can you please do a sequel for us? And he's like, well, I'm going to make Edward Scissorhands, and that was a hit too. You know, everybody loved it critically as well. But they're like, all right, but you can come back for Batman Returns, right? You're gonna return for Returns, right? And he's like, yeah, I'll do that, but you got to let me do whatever I want. I want to make it my world now. And that's basically why it's more of a fantasy world. Like, Gotham City looks completely different,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
And so the movie starts with the introduction in the past. The movie starts in the past to learn about the Cobblepots,
Yep.
who are... Did you notice who...
Paul
the
Rubens
father?
and
Okay, so
Simone from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah, so
Isn't
just
that awesome?
a fun little callback. For
But
a
I
little-
also know that they wanted, before Pee Wee Herman was going to play it, he kind of stepped in as a friend. They wanted Burgess Meredith to do it because he was the Penguin in the original series.
Oh,
you
yes. I did read that,
But I
yeah.
think he was too ill, so he was on his way out. So he didn't want to do it. But he would have been pretty old anyways, a little too old. You know, Mickey from Rocky. Hey, what's with your hands?
Really?
Yeah, he was Mickey.
I had no idea.
Well, we did.
'Cause that's a really famous role, too.
Oh yeah, it's a hugely famous. He was in Rocky. He was in Rocky 2, and then he died in Rocky 3. So, spoiler alert.
Like, on screen?
Sort of. Yeah,
Cut.
he kind of had a heart attack. No. His character died. But then I think he was brought back in Rocky 4 as more of a.
Robot?
No, he wasn't the robot. I think Rocky had some like fever dream of him or a memory of him or something like that. So he appeared again in Rocky 4, maybe Rocky 5, whatever. Anyway, so Batman Returns came out in
Yep.
92.
92.
It also did money, but not as much as the first amazing Batman film did.
Yep, considered kind of a failure. It made more on the opening weekend,
Mm-hmm.
5 million more than Batman. But unlike Batman, which grew and grew and grew, Batman Returns ended up grossing 90 million less at the domestic and 150 million less worldwide.
Yeah.
So a huge fall off from the amount of money that Batman made.
Why was
which-
that, I wonder? Well, anyway, what is the story about? So you said it started off with the Cobblepots, who to me are like a mirror version of the Waynes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in the fact that these two are obviously brother and sister. Because they made
Why
a
else would they have
mutant-
this child?
Yes. Statistically, it's pretty safe
Yeah.
to marry your first cousin.
Well, there's
So
a take
the
on it I
only-
never considered, but that answers the question right there.
Yep. it-
Born
it
from
was-
inbreeding, the person known as the
got-
Penguin would rise.
Yes. And in one of the several first few drafts, Max Schreck was the Penguin's older brother.
Yes, right. I did
Yeah.
read that. And
there'd
also
be a
that Max Schreck's character was sort of going to be Harvey Dent as well.
Yes.
Did you read that? Yeah. Which kind of
but
made
they-
sense.
Yeah, and they had this big plan to show Harvey flip a coin at the end of this movie, and it lands on the unmarked side, so he does nothing.
Ooh.
You just have to wait.
Well, the reason... so the movie starts with the Cobblepots, and then we come to... they have the husband and wife of the Cobblepots back like 30 years ago or whatever. They have a baby who they're very scared of, who has flippers for hands, some inbreeding going on, something. So what do? They toss him in the river. Because
In
when
a
you
public
are
park.
when you are wealthy elites, you just go to Central Park and toss your child in there, your unwanted child, and you'll never be prosecuted. It'll be fine.
Ever.
Never.
Nobody will ask any questions.
So, and then he apparently grows up below the city. But before he grows up under the city, he's also in a freak show. So we learn throughout the movie that he was the Penguin. He was the bird boy in a freak show the Red Triangle Circus, which is
And then-
also a nice, I felt that was it was a nice reason to give him henchmen, so that worked for me. But it was also
Yeah,
a
because
nice
the
thing
circus
that,
went bankrupt.
yes,
And they made their way.
yeah. But I think he was like Charles Manson, like he just kind of took over these people. Like he just convinced them to be his henchmen. And we're going to go into crime now, and they're all just like, all right, we'll follow you wherever you want to go, Penguin. It was just
Yeah.
it was just a nice take on the fact that, like, instead of just saying, yeah, he just was under the sewer for all these years. So he wasn't always under the sewer. He was in a freak show. Life
He was in a
wasn't good for
freak show.
him. He was very angry about life. This is why he became the Penguin. So we learned that.
And sorry, that was my phone. I should have put that on vibrate.
Also, one of my favorite Christmas movies, Batman Returns, because it takes place during Christmas, which is a nice touch. I love the snow. I thought that was really nice.
The snow is very nice.
Yeah.
So Penguin, do we put him as the A plot in this movie?
We do, for sure.
Because what is Batman's plot in
Nothing.
this movie?
He's the same thing as he was in the first movie, but he's expected to now take down the freaks, as opposed to just normal crime that's happening. So he's out there when the big problems occur, the police throw up the bat signal, like a crazy freak show circus is taking over Gotham and causing havoc. Well, we got to get Batman in for this. We're not going to call him about this carjacking that happened last week. You know what I mean? So he's like full on superhero. Like, I handled the supervillains. Just coincidentally, it just happens to happen at the same time with Catwoman and Penguin. You know what I mean?
Right. So that's interesting. So we have Penguin A plot.
Catwoman B plot. And then, Batman as a C plot, but Shrek is connected to the A plot, B plot, and C plot.
Yeah.
So yet again, Michael Keaton's Batman is relegated to a reactionary plot device. So I would say the basic plot of the film is that this guy feels, the Penguin feels like he was given a raw deal in life, and he wants to come out of the sewer. He wants to reemerge. He wants to reclaim his birthright, and be treated like a human. So he, for some reason, causes a lot of havoc with his circus henchmen in order to kidnap Shrek, who's a very prominent businessman, thinking that he'll be the one to help him emerge through blackmail. And at the same time, Shrek, who wants a power plant to get more power in the city, sees the Penguin as a way to get rid of the mayor, who's very against the power plant. So he is like, you want to rise out of the sewer? I'll help you if you help me with the power plant. So you got to become mayor, and we'll get rid of that mayor. It's a little complicated, but at the same time, it turns out the Penguin wasn't just wanting to rise out of the sewer. The whole time he was to be like, I'm human again and I want to be part of the city. The whole time he was planning on always kidnapping the firstborn of the whole city and letting them drown in the sewer as revenge against his parents. That is the plot, basically driving the whole movie. Am I right? Isn't that fucked up?
The way you described that, the best directors for this movie probably would have been the Coen brothers.
Yes, right? That would have been an interesting take on it.
Because that just sounded like a Coen brothers
Yeah.
movie, like the way they all weave together. Anyway, sorry.
It works, and it's revealed slowly, and it doesn't come out of nowhere, except I do feel like, as a kid, I didn't understand any of the power plant stuff.
Nope.
It all went over my head. I didn't really understand. But it was a way to get Bruce Wayne involved because he was a prominent businessman in the city as well. So that's why he was connected. Anyway, so it made it a little more personal that Bruce knew Shrek. And then... that Shrek would need the penguin and the penguin would need Shrek. So everybody connected in that way, and I understood that, but I didn't really understand what the hell the power plant was. I still actually don't. Like, is he like Mr. Burns, basically?
Well,
like with the sun shield? Remember when Mr. Burns in The Simpsons built the thing that blocked out the sun and the Who Shot Mr. Burns two-parter?
Like, this is... Yes, and that was amazing.
Like, is that basically, did they basically rip off Batman Returns? Because Shrek's whole deal is like, to be powerful, I need to control the power, like literal power of Gotham City. So if I own the power, they'll pay me and they'll have to treat me like I'm in charge of Gotham, or I won't give them any power and then they'll all suffer. Like, is that who Shrek, is that what Shrek's trying to do?
This crazy Shrek plan is very comic booky because the whole twist here is that his power plant isn't a power plant.
Right.
It sucks the power out of Gotham.
Yes.
And so it'd almost be like, that's such a madman, like,
Right.
Comic booky villain thing, is I'm going to suck the power out of the city and make them pay it
Exactly,
back.
like to hold it for ransom almost, but not like
Yes.
to deny the city power, but just to let them know that I control it. So you better treat me well, or you won't get any more of it. That kind of thing. Because Selena Kyle calls it a. She said it's not really a power supplier. It's like more of a big battery or something like that holds the power. You know. So anyway, it's an interesting. It's a unique storyline. I thought it's right up there with Chinatown.
Yes, I've never seen Chinatown.
Yep, I need to say that.
Yep, I've always wanted to.
It's a great film.
Yeah,
It's also a little confusing. It takes a couple watch. It only takes one watch to appreciate it and to enjoy it, but it takes a couple to understand what the hell the plot is. I would
Really?
say, yeah. And that's similar to Batman Returns. That's why I make that joke, but it is very. It's as you say, it's a Coen Brothers-ish film, but it's also a Chinatown-ish film. It's got a convoluted plot, but it doesn't all work out. Like, it makes sense if you think about it, and that's what's nice about it.
And then because of Max Schreck doing a bad thing, his secretary finds that.
Yep.
He shoves her out the window to kill her because she knows, and she comes back a little different. No, I don't remember the end. Did she count that as one of the deaths?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that was one of her 9 lives.
So she died and was reborn
Right.
as Catwoman.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's a masterclass in acting in this kind of film. Like, I think Michelle Pfeiffer does. I can't even imagine Annette Bening, who was originally cast as Catwoman in this role, because Michelle Pfeiffer is so good at it. She really is just like, I just feel like her and Burton must have just synced brains, where she's like, this is what you're looking for, this is what I can deliver. Like, this lonely secretary with this pinkish childhood world that she lives in when she goes home. Very lonely. She apparently has a boyfriend, but he doesn't treat her well. Her mother's always bothering her. Like, she's very lonely and sad, and then completely just turns around and becomes this psychotic Catwoman after being reborn. And I think she just does both sides of those characters excellently.
Yeah.
Is that a word? Excellently?
Excellently, I think is a word. Bill and Ted's excellent.
So she makes the film for me as much as DeVito's Penguin does. But everybody's good. Christopher Walken is a great business supervillain as well, you know?
Yes.
Man, he talks so fast. I know everybody knows how Walken talks, but it's not just the cadence he uses that makes him Christopher Walken. It's just like his line delivery. Like, normal people would like take these two things, like here's a sentence and here's a sentence, but he like reads a sentence and then he takes the word from the next sentence and makes that part of the first sentence. It's hard to explain when you hear it. I wish I had some examples because I can't pull them out of my brain at the moment. But he just does this weird thing where I'm just like, if you wrote that for an actor, you'd be like, no, why are that's a new sentence. You can't grab that first word off the next one and add it. But he does all the time, and it works. It's very Walken-ish.
God, I can't picture an example.
Well, yeah, I'll maybe try to think of some, but watch it again, you'll see what I mean.
So we've got a Catwoman running around.
We have a penguin running around trying to become mayor. We have Bruce Wayne running around trying to figure out what the penguin's plan is.
Yeah, because he just knows he's up to no good, whereas the rest of
Yeah.
the city is feeling like it's their long lost son, and they want to treat him like a hero's welcome and a hero's journey back to being Oswald Cobblepot. But he just knows something is up. I don't know why he knows something is up. I think he feels like they're two of the same almost. Like they're basically the same. They could have been the same person. Here's something.
And yeah,
They could have been the same, and I'm also developing this as I'm saying this, but they could have been the same person, right? Bruce Wayne knows he came from wealth with two parents that loved him, and through tragedy, he decided to do good by becoming Batman. He knows that Oswald Cobblepot came from wealth with two parents that hated him, and through tragedy, he knew that since he had parents that loved him through tragedy, and then tragedy happened, he did good. He knew that the Penguin, who had parents that hated him, and then tragedy struck, he could do bad. And that's why I think that Bruce Wayne thinks the Penguin is up to no good, because he was almost could be his evil twin. Think about that.
that was a great take on it. Like, that makes a lot of sense. But at this point, we have Batman established as Batman, and the first time you see Bruce Wayne in this movie, do you remember what he's doing?
What is he doing? Let me see. Oh, yes, I do. I love it. He's literally sitting, waiting to be Batman.
Yes, like he's so into it now at this point. Yeah, the first shot we have is Bruce Wayne just sitting on a dark couch, staring out at the sky, hoping to see the bat signal.
Would that work in any other movie but a Tim Burton film? Or in Tim Burton's Batman Returns? That would never work in any other movie. You'd be, literally, people would be like, what, he's just sitting there, waiting? But in this movie, you're just like, yeah, he's just sitting there waiting.
And that is what Batman would have to do. It's not like there's going to be a huge crime every little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, he's almost like less Bruce Wayne in this movie. I don't know.
He is. Like, he's made a transition. He uses the Bruce Wayne we do see when we see Bruce Wayne is almost always more serious.
Yeah, but his sexual desire towards Selena Kyle does awaken him a little bit. And he gets back into the bachelor side. But he's really just attracted to her because she's beautiful and dangerous and sultry and dark. That's totally what grabs him. But maybe Bruce Wayne has this sixth sense. Again, he's a damaged individual too. He's doing a bizarre thing. Maybe he just immediately sees. He sees that the Penguin could be a bad person, and he sees that Selena Kyle could be damaged as well, and it draws him to her.
Yeah, he really likes his chicks strange. Yeah.
But not really. I mean, Vicky wasn't strange. You know.
The thing I like about all these movies so far, I don't know if it happens in Batman and Robin, but Bruce Wayne uses the fact that he is Batman to get laid in every single one of these movies.
Explain.
Like, he tells them all. He loves telling women that he is Batman. Like,
well, yeah, but he had a relationship going with Vicky Vale before she knew he was Batman. They spent that incredible night together at his mansion with Alfred.
And he never called her back.
That's
he literally
true.
one night standed.
But he did have a night with her before she knew he was Batman. That's all I'm saying.
One night. And then in this movie...
Did you see Mask of the Phantasm?
Yeah, but not since we were that age.
The reason everybody liked that film, and the reason I liked it too, is it really did a side of Batman you never saw in live action, or not in movies, I guess, or in television or cinema, whatever. And that it really showed his the pain he felt where he made this promise to his parents on their death, on their graves, that he would dedicate his life to fighting crime, and then he falls in love with someone while he's training to do that, put that into practice, and he's very torn about it, and he goes to the gravesite, and he's like, I know I promised, but things are different now. I don't feel the guilt as much as I did because I am in love with someone. And it was a really powerful moment in that cartoon, you know. But things didn't turn out well, and he ended up being Batman anyways. But I think that's almost what Vicky Vale does to him in the first movie, in that he feels like he was happy with her in that one night stand. But then after it ended, he's like, I can't be distracted. I need to focus on Batman. And that's why he didn't call her back. And the only way for her to get back into his life was to find out his secret. And then it wasn't about, I can't be in love. I have to now be in love, but I need to be with somebody who can share the secret. And that's why they got together at the end. And then this movie is just like, oh yeah, it didn't work out.
Yep. Which is, a classic sequel element.
And it's fine, because you can't, I mean, I don't think it would have been as good for Catwoman's character if she didn't have a relationship with Bruce. I think she would have just been another villain. But the fact that she could spend time as the damaged Selena Kyle trying to be normal with Bruce, it was almost like she's now Batman's character in the first movie, where she's trying to have a normal life but realizes that she's doing these bad things at the same time, so she really needs to focus on Catwoman and not be happy with Bruce. There you go.
Oh, okay, so Catwoman
Yep.
wants to kill Max Schreck.
Yep.
Batman wants to stop Oswald,
Mm-hmm.
the Penguin. Max Schreck, he's just a Joker pawn at this point, isn't he? A Penguin pawn at this point?
Yeah. Well,
And
I
then-
think he feels like he's in control at the beginning, but then he's fighting for it at the end. He realizes that Penguin's a little too much for him to handle.
I'm having a hard time remembering how the final battle starts.
Well, let's see. Everything's going well, except Batman's ruining it all by proving in one way or another that the Penguin's bad. It's not really taking until the Penguin tries to destroy Batman, because Catwoman comes to him and says, like, we got to get rid of Batman. He's always going to be a problem. And I think that's what makes Penguin realize, yeah, you're right. I have a master plan, and Batman's going to be a problem. So we need to take him out. So they take control of the Batmobile. They turn him into a bad guy. Right? They kidnap the Ice Princess, and they make Batman look like he did it. And then they have him go through this crazy Batmobile rampage to the city, hitting people and knocking over cars and stuff.
Which was good.
But silly, but it worked. Batman records the Penguin, basically calling Gotham a bunch of puppets and idiots, and then he uses that at the next mayoral rally for the Penguin to show that the Penguin actually doesn't care about Gotham, and then the city turns on him. And that's why he's like, gives up the whole mayoral thing. He goes back to the sewer to enact his master plan, which was kidnapping all the firstborn of Gotham and letting them drown in the sewers. And at the same time, I think Batman felt like, okay, he doesn't know anything about the firstborn. So he's like, I drove the Penguin back to the sewer. I need to go after Selina again. So then they go to Max Schreck's ball that he has, this party at the,
Oh, yeah.
And that's when the Penguin reemerges, tries to kidnap his son Chip, who is a total son of Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's what he looks like.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
But Max is just like, you gotta take me instead. Look, I'm the reason all this happened. Take me. And he's like, yeah, okay. So then he takes him, and then Batman is off on being Batman again to go to the sewer to stop the Penguin. Catwoman is, little by little, is getting more effed up as the movie goes. Like her costume's getting all torn. And she just wants one final confrontation with Shrek as well. That's why she came to that party, because she was going to shoot him. But then that's when they both found out they were Batman and Catwoman, so everything got messed up. And then the Penguin came and distracted them. That's how the final battle starts. There you go.
I love that scene when they're dancing and they figure it out
Yeah.
between the two of each other, and they're like, oh god, what are we supposed to do now?
Start
It was
fighting.
That was great.
Michael Keaton may be a C plot in this one, part of that, but he's still great at it. I mean, he's just so good. And I do feel that he feels damaged in the way that Selena Kyle feels damaged. So the two of them together make a good on-screen couple.
So, final battle. Walk us through it, because, yeah, I'm blinking pretty hardcore.
Well, it all ends up in the sewer. The Penguin enacts his master plan. He sends all the penguins out to blow up the city. He has the circus gang steal all the firstborn, except Batman stops that from happening. Well, I think that's it. Like, he has them all steal the firstborn. Batman stops that. So the Penguin's just like, all right, fuck it. Send the penguins out, blow up the place, just kill everybody. And then Batman confronts the Penguin because him and Alfred make all the penguins go back to the zoo where the Penguin was hiding out.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. Like, Penguin, or Batman basically had a penguin call.
Yes.
Or something
I don't know.
ridiculous.
Well, now they did take control of the speech that the Penguin was giving, so it showed that they had some sort of radio communication power in the Batcave, that they could take control of things. So that's used again to give the penguins a radio message into their brain that says turn around and come back to base. So it all ends in the sewer. Batman knocks the Penguin back into the sewer, so he's out for the count. I guess you think he's dead. But that's when Selena Kyle shows back up, and as Max Schreck was trying to escape from the sewer where the Penguin had kidnapped him, they have a confrontation. Batman enters that. Selena Kyle kills Max Schreck. And then the Penguin reemerges just to die. And then it's all, it's taken care of. Batman doesn't really do anything at the end.
Yeah.
He has a little, he defends himself against the Penguin, as the Penguin's shoving his knife or swinging his knife umbrella at him.
Yeah.
But he doesn't really do anything.
Yeah.
So the idea, I mean, obviously if Max Schreck wasn't in the film and it was going to be Harvey Dent, obviously the whole businessman thing would have been very different. But I think the idea is that Catwoman was going to create Two-Face at the end.
Yes.
Yes.
And that was the idea, is that
Right.
the damage to Two-Face is from the shocking gun,
Right.
stun gun.
Right. Which, that's cool. I mean, that's an interesting take on it. Also, another thing that never happened in the movie is that Robin was at first considered to be in the film, and it was going to be played by Marlon Wayans.
Yes, who would have been a car mechanic
Right.
who helps Batman after a battle and drives the Batmobile.
Right. Which is what they kind of do in Batman Forever, in a way.
Yes.
Robin, Chris O'Donnell's character, steals the Batmobile, and yeah.
Yeah.
What would have been great about that is that anytime there's casting nowadays, where they use a different race than what was intended with the original character or whatever, it's always a freaking hullabaloo. You know what I mean? Everybody's got a problem with it. I wish this would have happened, because it would have happened and nobody would have gave a shit. You know what I mean?
That
Marlon Wayans
happening
would have
in
been Robin.
1992.
Yes. It would have
been
just
amazing.
helped. It would have helped nowadays, I feel like. If Marlon Wayans could have been Robin, it would have helped the way we all are up in arms about everything nowadays. You know what also helped is that nobody knows this because it's cartoon, but the Spider-Man cartoon from the 90s, the Kingpin's voiced by a black guy. A lot of white characters are voiced, but not a lot, but some white characters.
Did you hear that, Twitter?
Are voiced by black people. You know what I mean? Because they want the voice. It's not a big deal. They want a deeper, darker voice that these African American actors can pull off for the Kingpin. So, and James Earl Jones being Darth Vader. You know what I mean?
Twitter. He's a racist.
And James Earl Jones being Darth Vader. I feel like this is the way actors should be cast. Whatever you need for the role, whatever you feel is best for the film, that's who should be cast. That's just my take on it.
I agree.
Now we have a big problem with that for some reason. Some of it's warranted, but I also think that a lot of it is just people losing their goddamn minds, and it's really not a big deal. But that's just me.
So yeah, that's one of the things that could have happened in this movie. Yeah. It did not, and that wraps up Batman Returns. Does it work as a sequel following our rules?
Yes. Yes, and that question. We need to talk about that question. Not yes, as it does. I need to think about it for a moment. It's difficult to say with a superhero movie. This is where we start getting into the superhero problem.
It's
and
true.
that they're known to be franchises. Like, you know this is going to be a franchise, so there's a little leeway we got to give it, I guess, in that
Do you?
they
'Cause
can't totally wrap it up because you know there's going to be another one. It's a superhero film.
if you jump ahead, all of the Christopher Nolan Batmans pass the sequel test. All of them.
Well, the only reason this doesn't is because they show Catwoman at the end. And
Yeah,
that she's still alive. But if they didn't include that, it would. It completely wraps it up. It wraps up everything. Everybody's dead that needs to die. Batman's still Batman. And that's it. And then they show Catwoman's not dead.
Yeah, it's a very good point because the main character of this movie is the Penguin, not the Batman. He's the one that has the arc. He is the one that has the story that begins and ends. And Batman's just a player in that.
Right. And even the first film, Batman, ends in the same way. There doesn't have to be another one. The Joker's dead. Batman was just a supporting character anyways.
Yeah, it was just a little more serialized the way... I don't know. That's not the right word I was looking for.
My point is that the sequel test, it's a little more difficult with superhero movies because they're known to be franchises. It's almost like you can't, like James Bond pretty much passes the test, except for the newer ones. But at the same time, you know there's going to be another one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
All right, no, I'll give it the pass. It's just looking at it from that way that the villains are actually the main characters.
Yeah. Anyway, how do we wrap this up?
Yeah, do you have any final thoughts on the 1992 sequel, Batman Returns?
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously more to come. We have 2 other films to talk about that are connected to this world, this franchise. So we'll get to Batman Forever and Batman and Robin after this. But it definitely, the torch has been passed from Batman Returns to the next films. Like Tim Burton's, he returned as producer for the next one, so it still had a little bit of the Burton touch. But
Yes.
for all intent and purposes, these are Burton's Batmans that are now wrapped up with Batman Returns.
There was a good clip for what the Catwoman movie was going to be from the writer who was involved from Batman Returns, but it's
Yeah, and
gonna
also
take me too
that
long.
Tim Burton was going to direct it, but these are all very early. I feel like this is just like, was almost like a wish list for the studio. Oh, we're going to get the same writer. He'll write a Catwoman film. We'll have Michelle Pfeiffer return, and Tim Burton will direct it. But I doubt any of that was ever, like, contracted, you know?
Yeah, I doubt it got that far at all.
And then
But
connected in a way is that they finally made a Catwoman movie, and I suppose it is because of all this that was begun in Batman Returns is why the Halle Berry movie was eventually made. But it seems hardly connected in a way anyways. I don't know.
The quick arc of the story is that Selena Kyle has amnesia after Batman Returns, and she goes to a city called Oasisburg, which would have been like a Fort Lauderdale, to recoup.
Okay.
Except in Oasisburg, there's superheroes everywhere, and a lot of them don't seem like they really are. And she has to Catwoman it up for some...
So she becomes like an
superhero
anti-hero.
Something, yeah.
Or a hero.
Or she... Yeah.
Huh.
So amnesia is what would
Interesting.
have resulted in her from her electrocution at the end of this movie.
Well, I'm sorry to see that Michelle Pfeiffer never played Catwoman again, because I did like her. I think DeVito was pretty spot on casting. I love the dirty, gross sewage take on Penguin. I thought that was pretty unique. The long hair, you know, he was always spitting up something. It was really gross. That is one thing we didn't talk about, is that the studio basically asked Burton not to direct the next film.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I don't know if he
Good
would have
point.
anyways, but they asked him not to because I think McDonald's was mad that they couldn't sell Happy Meal toys based on Batman Returns. Or if they did, but they just felt it was... He sexed it up too much. Tim Burton made Batman and Robin, or Batman Returns, too sexy and too adult for McDonald's taste and everybody else's taste that wanted it to be more of a family-friendly action figure selling movie.
Yep, and hearing those responses and the fact that the movie made $150 million less than the first one, they definitely, their goal was to go in a family-friendly direction, starting with Batman Forever.
Yep. And again, I didn't notice any of it. It all went over my head when I was a kid. I remember seeing Batman Returns in the Ionia Theater. Going
Really?
with my family, yeah, when it first came out. I didn't know any. I just thought the Penguin was a good villain. I liked Catwoman. I love Batman. And I didn't understand any of the power plant thing. I didn't get any of the sexual innuendo that is rife throughout the film. Like, I mean, really, like when the Penguin walks in and sees Catwoman, just the pussy I've been looking for. I mean, as a kid, I didn't know what that meant. Like, I was just like right over my head, you know? And then when they're dancing at the end, what does she say? He says something about like, he said, I don't know. He says like, oh yeah, it was really hard to show up, and then she's like, oh, I'd say it's semi-hard, or something like that, you know? Just right up against him. Like there is some majorly, I don't know major, but there's some inappropriate adult comedy spread throughout the film. So I get their point, but at the same time, kids don't know. We didn't care. I still bought the toys. My parents bought them for me. I liked them.
Oh God!
And the Bat Missile, I loved that thing. I still have it. Batmobile.
It feels like this movie is the movie that really cemented, I don't know if it's movies or comic books for me, because after this movie I was so into all of it.
Yeah.
We had all those toys, and we knew who Tim Burton was, and we cared about the movies that he made.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would think that it was the cartoons that really kicked it into gear for me as well. I think that like the excitement of Batman and Batman Returns got me into Batman, but then the animated series really kept it in my life. You know what I mean? Because I look at my toys that I have, and I do have a number from Batman Returns. I have one Batman from Batman. I have the original Batman figure. And then I have a bunch from Batman Returns. But most of my toys are from the animated series. All my villains are from the animated series, like Two-Face and the Joker and Penguin. That's all from the animated series, the toys I have. I don't have a Batman Returns Penguin. I have Batman Returns Catwoman.
And I had the Joker.
And a Robin, who I believe was supposed to be black, and that's the way they made the toy, and then they changed it into a white toy, so that's why it looks a little off. Even though he wasn't even in the movie, but they still released a Robin toy. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it was. Those toys were great. They have no faults, and it's not interesting at all.
So next time, we're going to talk about Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
Batman and Robin. The last two films directed by Joel Schumacher,
who Tim Burton personally selected for Batman Forever.
Hear more about it next week, ladies and gentlemen.
Signing off. Talk to you then.
Yeah, have a great week.
Yeah, have a great month.
Have a great year. Oh my God,
have a great lifetime. What is wrong with you?
Like I'm zoning out. Like I don't know why. We've been talking too long.